maybe I will, since you mentioned, I'll make a couple of remarks about the war, since I wasn't here since the war to speak about it. What I'm saying now is 2 out of probably 100 important remarks, and what I'm saying is superficial. No one to this is my summary of the war, but one thing you could learn from it is, as one person said, if you live in Eretz Israel, don't make predictions, especially about the future. If anybody had told you 3 weeks ago that this was going to happen, you'd say you're crazy. And that Trump followed through with everything that he promised to do. It wasn't just a threat. Another thing you can learn, I saw a summary of what has been printed over the last year, let's say, in the leftist press. I think I came to a new conclusion. Let's suppose you were watching a trial, an American trial. So a prosecutor and defense attorney. The job of the prosecutor is to convict. The job of the defense attorney is to show that the arguments of the prosecutor don't work. Both of them are deeply prejudiced. Neither of them is looking for the truth. Each one's working for a boss who wants an outcome. So when they twist facts, or they put a false spin on a fact, or they omit a fact, you shouldn't be surprised. Their job is to get a conclusion. The press has become lawyers, propagandists, paid persuaders. There's Havamina, I would say, anywhere to get to the truth. So just start that way. Don't expect them to get to the truth. Don't accuse them of vile corruption when they don't give you the truth. That's not their job. That's not what they're being paid for. That's not what their masters want from them. So then, what do? When you listen to the prosecutor, you listen to the defense attorney, you think, well, are his arguments good arguments? Are his proofs good proofs? Are his references true references? And you judge the credibility of the person not on his motives. You judge the credibility on his record. You listen to what he says, you check what he says, like with Claude, who makes mistakes left and right, and makes up references that aren't true, and there's no logic there whatsoever. And you judge how credible it is. So the leftist press had every wild fantasy about Trump has abandoned Israel, they said 3 weeks ago, and Trump and Netanyahu are fighting with one another, and there's no recognition and no cooperation, and Netanyahu and the Defense Department don't trust each other. They make up wild stories. And now that there has been a tremendous success, they don't get to give Netanyahu credit. No, it was Rabbi who set it up, or it was the other one who planned it, and so forth and so on. They're making a case, as strong or as weak. They're paid to make that case. So I think, one has to read them with we'll call it jaundiced eye. I had a friend when I was in high school who spent some time in Italy, and he said, in Italy, you want to know the news? You get the left paper, the middle paper, and the right paper. You meet all three, and you figure out for yourself what happened. But that's another observation. The third observation is what I said before many times, which you have to daven for, is a Kiddush Hashem. There certainly has been more recognition of religious thinking in the last 4 weeks than there has been a lot of time before. The other day, the Shas party in the Knesset said Nishmas in the Knesset. I don't think that ever happened before, ever. And Netanyahu has expressed himself in much more religious terms than he ever has before. And Derry, who's close to him, talked about the conversations that he had with him. He went to the Chesed twice, once before the operation, once after the operation. So there's definitely more of a recognition. And that certainly is a good thing. And the last thing that I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but the extent to which the Iranian government puts out open, obvious, blatant lies of a tremendous victory. one of their news outlets said, Tel Aviv and Haifa are utterly destroyed. They're uninhabitable. Hello, there's 500,000 people in the one, a quarter of a million people in the other, and the buses are running, and the restaurants are open, the beaches are full. What? And then the last thing I saw is that they shot down 8 of our planes, and they sent the pieces to China for analysis. Total fantasy. Now, I don't know whether the people that they're talking to believe it or don't believe it. I remember in the Soviet Union, people had theories of propaganda, and if you control the means of communication, so you can get people to believe whatever you want. But we know people who were there. Nobody believed it. Everybody knew that they were being robbed and cheated. Everybody knew that it was lies. I would assume that in Iran, there are a very large part of the population that knows that it's lies. There is a little clip now, broad daylight, over a major thoroughfare on a bridge. There's a big sign for the government, and a guy goes up and ignites it, and it burns down in broad daylight. So, not everybody believes in what's going on there. But the lies that they put out, they say that they obliterated the American base in Qatar. The truth is, they shot 14 missiles because America dropped 14 bombs, and they told America beforehand they're going to shoot because they didn't want it to be a real incident that could isolate the. And America shot down 13 and let one of them fall on a field. None of them hit the base, and they publicized that they obliterated the base. By the way, when they closed down the internet, Musk opened up Starlink. So they had communications. So people know. And yet they say these things. Like, we suffered 28 dead, I think. The latest figure I saw from Iranian sources, 960 were killed. And top generals and top scientists and top leaders of this and that, right? Any of our representatives, leaders of any kind, get as much as a finger prick? No. That's their great victory. So I wish them many more victories like that. You should always have such victories. Continue to have such victories. Fine with us. We're very happy for your victories. That's a few remarks on the board. Now, the question that I posed to talk about is a question in and of itself, but it really is a key to some very deep elements in Jewish thinking. And I'd like to start just by having you express your own intuitions about this subject, sort of engage your own appreciation for these ideas. The difference between mercy on the one hand and what we call loving kindness, or even just kindness on the other hand. What would you say about the differences between them, the similarities, the relationships between them? How would you see the relationships between mercy on the one hand and kindness on the other, or loving kindness?
Is loving kindness a prerequisite to mercy, perhaps?
Oh, that's interesting. Let's put that on the table. Let's think about that as we go along. I think that could be a quite deep observation. Where I'm going to be 3 days from now, I'll be coming in from that direction. I don't know if it's exactly a prerequisite, and I don't know whether it's intuitive or just Jewish, but I think there's something there. I definitely think there's something there, yeah.
Sort of along the same lines, but I think mercy is functioning within the realm of din. It acknowledges the existence of din, of judgment, and that in spite of judgment, Hashem will treat us with something called mercy, maybe something called chesed. But chesed doesn't seem to necessarily have anything to do with judgment at face value.
Okay, let's think about this for a second. Think of a plea for mercy, or you ask somebody for mercy. What's going on which calls out a plea for mercy? Where are you standing that you say, please give me mercy? Okay, helplessness, number one, but not just helpless.
Challenge.
Okay, what kind of challenge?
Hardship.
Some kind of hardship. In other words, you could be helpless, but you might not have anything to do. I went, I care that you're helpless because I have nothing to do. Right? Here, you're saying I'm facing some kind of challenge or some kind of hardship. Now, if I'm making a plea for mercy, where is this challenge or hardship coming from? Who am I talking to when I say, please give me mercy?
Whoever has power over you, perhaps.
Whoever has power over it, and not only has power over me, but also is, I mean, he's threatening me, right? Otherwise, he may have power, but if he's not threatening me, why should I ask him for mercy? Right? Mercy is a plea in the face of a threat. Now, the threat, I guess, might be justified, it might not be justified. Either way, what you're saying to the person is, don't treat me harshly because I'm asking for mercy. It's very interesting when Joseph is sold into slavery and he ends up being the viceroy in Egypt, and the brothers come down to buy food, and they're confronting Joseph. They don't know it's Joseph. And he treats them harshly, calls them spies, puts them in jail. And they say to one another, we know why this is happening. Because when Joseph pleaded with us and asked us for mercy, we said no. Well, Joseph was thrown into the pit where he could have died, and it was their intention to kill him. Because when Yehuda convinces them to take him out of the pit, he says, Ma betzakina harogas achinu. What profit will we have if we kill our brother, because he's going to die here? Let's take him out and sell him alive and make some money off it. So obviously the intention was to kill. Now he's asking for mercy. Is their attack against him justified or not justified? What would Joseph think about it? Is it justified or not justified? That's discussed in the commentators. But the plea for mercy, I think, could work either way. You have an intention to harm me. I want you to restrain that intention because of mercy. Now, I think now I'm going to appreciate a little bit better where you're coming from. In other words, what kind of attitude must the attacker have? If I'm asking for mercy, what am I appealing to in him that might motivate him to show me mercy? Am I not presuming that he's got some kind of care for me? Or care for generally treating people well? If he were a thoroughly vicious person, there would be no point in asking for mercy. It's not going to come because he hasn't got it in him. So either some kind of kindness in him, general kindness, or some kind of care for me, because the brothers are the psukim are so precise and careful. We saw him, our brother asked us for mercy. Our brother asked us for mercy. So even if it's not kindness in general, but it's a brother asking a brother, and to appeal to that in the person, there's got to be something in there to motivate them to show mercy. So mercy is really a response to a threat, and it's an appeal to some source of kindness in the one who's authoring the threat, making the threat, some kind of kindness in him to modify the intention to do the harm. Yeah.
Would we call it kindness, or would we call it goodness? Now it kind of gets into, we've gone through a couple shiurim talking about where Hashem wants to destroy the Jewish people. Moshe appeals to him, and or many Jewish leaders appeal to him in a variety of different ways. Often the thing that he ends up listening to is that it would be essentially a Chillah Hashem, for other people to see that Hashem destroys, that Hashem only took the Jews out of Egypt to destroy them, meaning that it wouldn't be good if Hashem did it. So similarly, you could say, we're saying it wouldn't be good if you destroyed us and took away our potential to achieve what you want us to achieve in this world. That's not necessarily kindness.
Okay, first of all, I'm not sure we would say Hashem wants to destroy them. He proposes destroying them. We're not talking about his psychology there. Okay, but
Yeah.
that's just a side point. Well, you see, I think I agree with you, but goodness comes in many shapes and forms. Goodness can be justice. Goodness can be kindness. Goodness can be fairness, but justice is or isn't fairness, whether Rawls is right or wrong. I mean, goodness has many concepts under that general category of goodness. So I think the idea of kindness is to pick out what element of goodness is there. Yeah.
To play off that, didn't we already establish in a previous class that justice is something that is within loving kindness, that is sort of a function of it?
Yes, we did. Yeah, it's good that you remembered that. And indeed, the Jewish position is that there's only one purpose to creation and only one characteristic which underlies everything that happens, and that's loving kindness. So I was starting, as I said at the beginning, I'm starting to just elicit your intuitions to see whether, the extent to which your mind is already prepared for the ideas that I want to describe and I want to offer. I tell you, I didn't think about this at all myself. When I first moved to Baltimore, this was I'm glad you're sitting down, 1969, ancient history. There had been a mashgiach in the yeshiva there, and I heard a tape from him. His name, when I want to name it runs away. And he was one who first made this point, that mercy, as you said, is a response to justice. Mercy really says, don't do justice. The Jewish concept, don't do justice. Justice would demand a certain reaction, harsh reaction, as you said. Right? And mercy is, don't do the harsh reaction that justice would require. That means mercy is always reactive. You can't have mercy in a vacuum. Mercy is chapter 2 in the story. There's got to be a prior chapter 1 where there's been a judgment and a statutory punishment, and then mercy says, but don't do it. But don't do it. Mercy is always number 2. And as one of you sort of indicated, kindness isn't like that at all. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Can't we also sometimes say that mercy is just, or is this sort of just like semantics?
Okay, let's talk about this. One of the things, oh gosh, I can't. He said because mercy is an appeal, a plea not to do justice, it has 2, what you could call weaknesses, or it has 2 necessary conditions that have to be met for it to be realized. And one is, there has to be a reason for it. Because mercy is saying, don't do justice. Now just personify these characteristics. What is justice going to say? What do you mean, don't do justice? What are you talking about? Justice is a divine quality. It's a quality of rectitude, quality of behaving in a good way. What do you mean, don't do justice? And there has to be an answer to that. You can't just arbitrarily say, justice said X, but let's not. So a plea for mercy always has to have a reason. You could be asked, why should mercy be done in this case? Because it's a first offense, because he has a social setting in which he'll be protected from further crime, and they'll support him. Because he was under special pressure, which happens once only in a century, it's not going to happen again. There has to be some explanation as to why justice shouldn't be done. That's number 1. And number 2, the plea for mercy can't always be guaranteed to succeed, because it is in opposition to justice, and sometimes justice is right. In spite of the considerations that mercy would motivate and suggest as a reason for mercy, it can happen that mercy is incorrect. So not always is mercy applied. So that's 2 weaknesses that the plea for mercy has.
So when it does apply, is it just?
No, it isn't. It isn't just. It is. Let me see if I can. I hear where your question is coming from. The problem here is the vocabulary is subtle and it overlaps. Let me start with a preliminary point. Is it clear to you that the right thing to do could be bad?
Yes.
right and bad don't correlate to one another. We talk about the lesser of two evils. They're both evil. They're both bad. But the right one is the lesser evil. That doesn't make it good. It's just, under the conditions, that's what needs to be done. So it can be that the right thing to do is an injustice. The fact that it's right doesn't make it justice. You're supposed to pay a person for the work that he does. If I have, and I'm an employer, and I have money to give out to my employees, and he's done the work, and I owe him the money, and then there's a sudden attack, and I need to use all my resources to respond to the attack, including the money that I owe him. He is suffering an injustice. He did his work and he's not getting paid. That's not erased. It's overridden by a greater concern, a greater need. If he's smart, he would even agree to it, but it's still an injustice. He's agreeing to be treated unjustly. So I don't think that it makes it just. It makes it right. It makes it appropriate. Makes it good, because justice in this case has to take second place to the other concern, which is more important. It's just like when you have in halacha, when you have a conflict between two halachos, and you decide which one should be acted on. It's not that the other one disappears, although this is a machlokes between the Rishonim how to treat this. But the general idea is that not it disappears. There's a real violation. When you go to a hospital in an ambulance on Shabbos, you have violated Shabbos. It's just, it was right to violate Shabbos. It was the right thing to do, but the violation is there. So I don't think it makes it just. Of course, these words are elastic, and someone can use, sometimes people use the word just as if it were the same as the word right, but I don't think it's sharp vocabulary. I don't think it's correct analysis of what's going on.
So going off that, are there Hebrew words that we can use instead that are a little bit more precise in this context?
That's a very interesting question. There are words, and in Hebrew, generally Hebrew is a very impoverished language. For any one word for a concept in Hebrew, there are about a dozen in English, with very subtle shades of meaning and shades of associations. Not always true. Sometimes you have many words in Hebrew, and you don't have as many in English, because this is a special subject, like, for example, understanding, where there are, like, you have Chochmah, Bina, and Das, and Haskel, and others, that, Hakara, a whole bunch of them, and they make very fine distinctions. Now here, in the case of justice, you have in Hebrew two words at least, mishpat and din. And they are different, and there is a lot of literature about how they're related. I'm sorry? Tzedek is another one. Right. Good. Right? Right. Mishpat and din are related in a certain way, but tzedek is another one. Are there even others? Ra'ui is a very general term for what's appropriate, which would apply here in some cases. Sometime takin in Hebrew also could carry a connotation.
What about Yashar?
Okay, Yashar is much broader than interpersonal relations, but in interpersonal relations it would overlap also. Yes, there are quite a number of different words. Now, mishpat and din sometimes are related as follows. Din is strict justice with no mercy, and mishpat is strict din with mercy. So it's the broader concept of what's appropriate to do, taking into account strict justice and considerations of mercy. You call it, and sometimes it's translated as judgment. And judgment is a much broader word. Judgment is the intellectual quality of analyzing all the circumstances, weighing up one against the other, and coming out with an appropriate resolution of the forces. And that's much more appropriate to mishpat than it is to din. Din, well, okay, let's leave it at that. So,
Mishpat has no mercy, or?
It would include mercy. Mishpat would include mercy. But then there are subdivisions. This was called din kasher, but din rafeh, strong din and weak weak din, different levels of din. A lot of distinctions are made. So I think I started with English terms, but I think that's a good point. So this is roughly the mapping of justice and mercy. What about kindness? What kind of a concept is kindness? Where does it stand in relationship to the kinds of things we're talking about? Is it like mercy? Is it different from mercy?
Related to mercy?
Is it related to mercy? He suggested an interesting relationship, which we'll come back to. But
I thought we established previously that both justice and mercy are functions of kindness.
yes, but now I'm asking to compare kindness and mercy, both of which are friendly to the recipient, do things that are good for the recipient, so on and so on. I mean,
I don't think it could be merciful without being kind.
so this is what he said before, and I think there is something there. It's at least one source of mercy. Let's go back to the brothers, and Joseph's in the pit. He's saying, "Mercy," right? So I think you could hear him appealing to two different qualities, maybe six different qualities, but at least two different qualities. One is general kindness. The kindness that you have as part of your character, which is a commitment that you have for dealing with the world in a certain way, please apply that to me. And that would be the mercy of not applying to me and acting out on me the punishment that you're planning to do. That's one way you could do it. I think another thing you could do is see him do is appealing to brotherhood. Maybe you're not a kind person in general. Maybe you're not motivated just to do nice things for people, but maybe you have a family relationship where you are committed to your brother and you do for your brother because he's your brother. That also could have stopped the application of harm that they wanted to do to him. So I don't think that mercy has to be an appeal just to kindness. Yeah.
Two things. One, I was going to say that I feel like that appeal to brotherhood is still an appeal to loving kindness because, I mean, to actually have that sense of brotherhood and to have that value sort of requires the value for like the midah of loving kindness, in my opinion.
That
Two,
sociopath.
you could perhaps say that one form of mercy would be an appeal to someone's self-interest. Perhaps say that it is not in their best interest, or it is in their best interest to show you mercy. Not
I think that.
necessarily out of kindness, but out of that.
Okay, so good. So we're on the same page that an appeal for mercy isn't only an appeal for kindness.
Yes.
Okay, but then if that's true, you could appeal for mercy even to a person who didn't have kindness. Give your own example, self-interest. I could appeal for mercy on the grounds that what you're planning to do for me is bad for you. It's still a reason why not to do justice.
I mean, self-kindness.
Well, but now you're inventing that to save your position. You're not using it as a piece of obvious evidence which could support your position, right? So I'm thinking now about a person who thinks that he has family obligations. His motive, his moral dimension that he's thinking of, what am I obligated to do? What's right and responsible for me to do? And he thinks family members have a responsibility to support one another. I think he could have that without kindness in his general character. It's just responsibility. It's more like justice. It's more like justice than it is like yeah.
Is it like appealing to social convention thing? Instead of it being a moral consequence within somewhat of fitting into society, you want to be someone who is looked upon as someone who does merciful things, if that makes any sense.
I'll tell you, I think the appeal to a social construct here is not going to do the job because we're talking now about motivation. We're talking about psychology. You have to give me the psychology of the person who cares about the social convention.
Well, someone who doesn't want to be ostracized.
I'm sorry, what?
Someone who doesn't want to be ostracized.
Good. Then it's self-interest. It's another form of self-interest. You lose money, you lose reputation, you lose respect, right? But we're talking inside the psychology of the person. We're not talking philosophically, we're talking psychologically. That's the environment in which the discussion is taking place.
I'd also just throw in about the social convention aspect. Like if you're dealing with a sociopath, they can show mercy, but apparently it's not coming from kindness. And then also, when it comes to like Hashem showing mercy, there can be mercy shown in the short term that's not in the person's best interest. Like we were talking about the fifth category person who Hashem just treats as cattle, and then they end up being shown mercy in this world, and now they're eternally damned.
Yeah, I think, well, eternally damned is a little strong for our religion.
Something
Something bad is going to happen to them. I agree. Yes, I think that's right. Mercy can be the result of many different motivations. So I don't think that mercy requires kindness, but I think that kindness is one source of mercy, and it has a special character with respect to mercy, which we'll get to in Yis Hashem. We still didn't get to, and I have to leave early because I have to go to a Hasan and Bnei Brak. I have to get home, go with my wife and with her relatives. I'm going to leave in about 5 minutes. But I still want to ask about kindness. You see, let me just put it structurally. We've said that mercy is in response to. It's a responsive character. I said it's chapter 2 in the book. Mercy can't be chapter 1. You can't start a book with show mercy, because there's nothing there, show mercy 2. I don't think kindness is chapter 2. I don't think kindness requires anything before it. Kindness can be the starting point in the motivation. It can be the starting point in the story. Indeed, there are people who have kindness as a psychological characteristic, and they look for people to show kindness to. They go searching for them, because expressing kindness is an essential part of their character. Indeed, that's one way of describing. Can you finish the sentence? You have it from before. The creation of the world, right? Because Baruch Hu creates the world in order to show, to actualize his kindness. That is the definition of the motivation in many Sfarim. Chapter 1 of the Derech Hashem, Le Heitiv. He creates the world in order to be Meitiv. That's the beginning of the story. It's definitely chapter 1. There isn't anything there before yet. Nothing's happened yet. So, loving kindness can be a first motivator, a first move, a first gesture. Mercy can't be a first gesture. You can't start a scenario with justice. That's structurally a gigantic difference between kindness and mercy. And that's why you couldn't have mercy as the original and sole reason for the creation, because there's nothing to be merciful to. Sorry?
It's reactive.
Because it's reactive, exactly. So it could come out that mercy is an application of kindness. It couldn't come out that kindness is an application of mercy. It's not possible. So that's a tremendous difference between them. One is more independent than the other one is. Yeah.
So why should anyone even ask for mercy if, like, we know that the challenge or whatever is brought to us is for a reason? So why would you even ask for mercy for that challenge to be less powerful? So for your end result to be, so you come out less stronger? Like what? How?
Because maybe the intended outcome is that you should pass this stage with mercy. Maybe the intent, as we're going to see in Yis Hashem, I think that mercy, in a certain sense, is loving kindness. Loving kindness applies in different ways and in different aspects with different foci. It has a very variegated concept. I think it's a kind of loving kindness. Justice, in a certain sense, is impersonal. I don't know if you're familiar, but the ancient statuary of statues of justice, the statue always has a blindfold on. There are principles being applied to people. Whether you're Peter or Paul or Philip, makes no difference. It can't make a difference. It shouldn't make a difference. It should be absolutely blind as to the character of the person. Mercy depends upon the character of the person. So, and the appeal is, yes, that's what the abstract general principles of justice require, but don't do it to me. And that's another reason, I didn't think of this, but that's another reason why that it has to have a reason, because you have to explain why you're different from others. It should apply to others, but not to you, because I have some special feature. That's part of the justification that mercy has to have. Yeah.
Rabbi, you just said mercy is a kind of loving kindness. Isn't that a contradiction?
I don't think so. Indeed, I'll use your earlier remark to show the opposite. In other words, you said that a person couldn't show mercy if he didn't have kindness. And it really is an appeal to kindness. And I think that's right. Kindness applies in a variety of circumstances. Let me put it this way. Kindness could apply also in a reactive situation. It could apply in a reactive situation. But it doesn't need to be reactive. It's not essentially reactive. Mercy is only reactive. But you can easily understand that in a relationship with someone, somebody does something and there's certain implications, and then someone asks you, but be kind to him, that would be perfectly a relevant thing to say. Apply kindness in this reactive situation. So I don't think that's impossible. Guys, I really have to run. I'm sorry that I have to go early, but we'll pick it up tomorrow, I mean, Hashem.
Thank you, Rabbi.